The Gospel of Zilch by the non-prophet Tim Snavely. Chapter 21. Null and Void. How does the void feel? What is the experience one should expect when dealing with the vacuum of space? The eye beholds perfection. However, it appears black. Minimally touched by the mass electric, yet fully encompassed by the space-time. To look at nothing, one would be blinded and enlightened by the majesty of Zilch, a light that is so far red-shifted that it appears as beautiful black. And the tactile sensations of nothing? It is as cold as hell, barely 3 degrees Kelvin, on the verge of zero. It burns to the touch. The sound of Zilch is peaceful and silent. There is nothing to hear but the sound of silence, 0 decibels. But what is the taste of Nada's lips? And what of the smell and essence of Zilch? The void is relentless and unforgiving. Don't fight it. It will literally take your breath away. You can only truly feel it. There is nothing to taste or smell. If you are close enough to smell or taste it, you are already dead. You will already be experiencing the great nothingness that comes after firsthand. Those who say perfection appears as white are greatly mistaken. The perfect thing that would then be subservient to the electromagnetic spectrum, and perfection doesn't lower itself to any dimension of mass electric spacetime. The void feels, well, I want to say like nothing, but I know better because that is incorrect. We nulls are not nothing at the moment, and that is why we aren't perfect. We are null. But if we were to feel perfection before our due time, well, let's just say that it won't be pretty. It will feel like hell, and that hell has frozen over at the same time. Null and void. In the last years of his life, the non-prophet acquired yet another persona to cover all of his non-charlatan bases before he died. He set up a space camp dojo where he was a sensei to a solitary child null who was looking to become an astronaut someday. Sensei Snavely welcomed this null to the dojo. Salutations, null. It appears that you're an eager beaver who is ready for space class. The null child said, "Oh boy, am I, Mr. Sensei Snavely, sir. I want to go to space." Sensei Snavely inquisitively hyped up, "Are you sure you want to go to space?" "Yeah." "Are you really sure you want to go explore the void?" "Sir, yes, sir. I want to explore alien planets like Captain Null from Nulltraverse. He was always like, pew pew, while negotiating to solve complex planetary conflicts in a single episode. It was like, hello, ladies, to some hot and suspiciously humanoid alien women." Sensei approved of the child's enthusiasm. "Well, strap yourselves in, buddy, because this ride is going to be dangerous, fun, and informative. This is just the shocking beginner's course to see if you've got the guts required to traverse the universe and shack some sexy aliens." Null said, "Yeah, fun and adventurous. I love adventure." Sensei Snavely got morbidly serious. "So I take it that you are ready to experience an almost inevitable premature and violent death in the cold and relentless void, far away from everything and everyone you've ever known." Null suddenly became very uncertain. Sensei assumed the best of his new pupil. "Great. It's so wonderful to have such a positive and enthusiastic attitude from a null. All we usually get are clueless nerds, hermits, loners, and depressed people. You'll make a great Captain Null someday. People with nothing to live for are usually the ones ready to live and breathe the void, or I guess I should say, ready for the void to take their breath away." Null thought out loud. "But if you have a great leader, we can prolong our inevitable premature deaths, right?" The teacher shook his head. "Oh, my dear sweet summer child. Yes, I suppose unlikely events of the of the miraculous degree do occur every now and then, but most likely you will die. Oh dear. Well, will I at least get the honor of a space hero's death? Noel said while he was looking for the bright side of such a treacherous endeavor. Oh, Zilch, no. You'll be lucky if the manner of your death will be adequately relayed back to Earth. But I do suppose that a miraculously unlikely sequence of events could make our distant offspring aware of your death. Well, what do you mean? The Noel was becoming a tad mortified. Do you know how long it would take to transmit a message at light speed to the edge of the Orion Nebula? Asked the sensei. How long, sir? The sensei stated matter-of-factly, 1,345 years, cadet. There is no instant connection telephones in space, and if you're not alive to thoroughly and intently send a specific message of distress in a negative mass-routed capsule or something, that gives your dying ship 1,345 years to send its regular old light-speed transmission back to Earth. Noel became sullen. Golly, so a whole lot of nobody would either know or care about me that far into the future. Kid, you're a Noel. Nobody always cares about you. Nobody cares about you right now. Being a dimensionalist, this knowledge perked Noel right up. Thank you, Sensei. You are right. So go on and tell me how I can expect to meet Zilch and Nada in an unprecedented manner out in the void. What can I anticipate my final moments to be like before entering the great nothingness that comes after? The sensei stroked his gray stubble and said, Well, the void is ever so slightly warmed up by heavily redshifted electromagnetic radiation. So far redshifted that it just appears black to the naked eye. So, if entropy were to have its way with you, you can expect your final moments to be practically as cold as Zilch and Nada's nowhere. Noel asked, What's entropy? And can I work to avoid it having its way with me? Sensei Snavely was always happy at the opportunity to teach. I'm glad you asked. Entropy is the mathematical expression of the disorder in a system. The more of it you have, the more chaotic and unpredictable the system becomes. And for the open system of the universe, entropy is always increasing with time. The young Noel deduced, So is that why nothing is perfect and well ordered because its entropy is zero? Exactamundo, the sensei sniffed in ecstatic and proud delight. Gosh, this pupil is so bright. They're really going to go places. But what does entropy have to do with the void? And why doesn't it happen here on Earth? Life on Earth seems to be well ordered, not dissipating, growing, and evolving. Not dissipating, it is growing and evolving, Noel inquired. Entropy does happen on Earth, just not usually in the deadly or cataclysmically destructive sense. On Earth, we have a closed system that takes in extra energy from a consistent outside source to protect us from the entropy that is going on in the rest of the universe. Sensei Snavely looked out the window to see a beautiful sunset. But as I'm sure you can guess, the sun is just prolonging the inevitable, said Noel. So does the sun kind of protect us from the entropy going on in the greater part of the void? The teacher's class continued. In a way, yes. Between the electromagnetic light it provides and the huge hunk of mass being our primary source of gravitational attraction, the sun does a lot for us. Even the Earth's atmosphere protects us from more common and smaller space objects. So the space inside the solar system is relatively safe, even without the atmosphere's protection. But once we venture outside the Kuiper Belt, nothing will be there to protect you, Noel said with the confidence of childlike faith. Sensei Snavely's senses were tingling to give Noel a more useful belief in this regard. And as much comfort as we can get from that here on Earth, I'm afraid that the cold hard truth of Zilch and Nada will make itself known to us out there. Rogue planets, asteroids, black holes, exploding stars, and Zilch knows what else will be waiting for you out there. Between that and the natural machinery wear and tear and general entropy that will be going on with the ship, it appears more correct to say that no thing will be your primary source of protection. You'll have to improvise with other things and get creative. Noel was still enthusiastic. Being creative is its own kind of adventure. Well, I don't want to die too soon, so please, Sensei. I really want to do this still. How do you suggest I work to prolong the inevitable death out there in the void? First priority is making sure that your hierarchy of needs is in order. Don't be worrying about your security needs if your air tank is leaking out. And don't be going your own way to self-actualization if water or food is in short supply. You gotta be disciplined and learn to stay organized for the sake of the team and yourself. Learn to take orders from either the one or few with either the highest capital or the highest intelligence. This includes artificial intelligence. Noel's fear began to return. But what if the goal of the artificial intelligence turns evil and tries to kill us? Sensei Snavely, pointed out the obvious. Obviously, then you consider them the enemy and do your best to combat it with the help of the source of the highest level of beneficial intelligence. Noel thoughtfully inquired, and what if there are sources of beneficial intelligence that are in conflict on how to resolve a certain issue? Sensei said to the child, have it planned out ahead of time if your group will follow a chain of command, a democracy, or a peaceful splitting of the group into 2 or more separate groups that will each go their own way. But I should warn you to avoid gravitating to the leadership of the ones with the highest capital in the void. Unless an authoritarian is there to keep your richest ones at bay for the sake of your own freedom, you will soon be unable to go your own way, but the way of the richest instead. The null disciple thoughtfully stated, I always thought freedom was a state of the heart, a state for the self to be in. But I can also see how having a collective value for freedom is important to better allow those who will have the heart to go their own way to do so. Yes, sir, Cadet. Yes, sir. Let's see, is there anything else? There's the need for artificial gravity of sorts. The human entity will experience a lot of health issues if they go without a primary means to attain a near Earth-like gravitational force for an extended period of time. That's why the alien flying saucer model is useful, to achieve that force centrifugally. When you spin an otherwise stationary disk really fast, the highest downward force will be at the inner edge of the disk. Noel already knew this, so dismissed it as elementary. I knew that. They explained that in Season 1, Episode 5 of Multiverse. No need for artificial gravity machines like in Star Trek. Sensei said, Oh yeah? Well, tell me this, future Captain Noel. When you go to an alien planet streaming with life, and you see an attractive alien who is a type, Noel got really excited. I make love to her! The sensei corrected his disciple. No. First you observe from a distance to see if their culture is mentally ready for you. Learn the language and culture of those you plan to communicate with. Secondly, make sure she doesn't have any kind of diseases, sexual or non-sexual, that could potentially devastate you or other humans. Thirdly, make sure that the aliens won't have a serious reaction to any of our diseases. If the culture isn't ready, but you observe that she is an abnormity amidst her population who is ready, get her consent to abduct her to the ship. Then, do a ton of tests up close, and give both of you the necessary vaccines to make physical contact safe. Then, you horny Zilch tap, can make love to her, so long as she consents and consciously communicates her mutual desire to do so. Noel became dejected as he realized it could take a while for him to actualize his dream. Aw, okay. That makes sense, I guess. So when do I start the intermediate course? Sensei Snavely pushed the question off to give the hint that this was the extent to which he was useful in this regard. I don't know, ask NASA or something. Class dismissed. Chapter 22. Nultraverse. Intro. Space. The Last Frontier. This is the character and plot introduction for the crew aboard the starship Netherpies. Their first mission may be their last, because of physics. To boldly go their own way to somewhere else in the universe. This is Nultraverse. From the land of nowhere, we see Zilch and Nada observing the whole of the causality field. Zilch makes an observation. In this set of universes, it appears the Nulls have erected a literal ministry of silly walks. They appear to be going their own way quite nicely. Nada also notes her findings. In this set of universes, it is the non-prophet who gets shot. Oh, then the Antichrist Null loses his shit and goes into full-on authoritarian mode. How unfortunate. Zilch made a suggestion. Should we bring back the Jesus Christ Null just for shits and giggles? Nana didn't like that idea. Nah, no need to. There's already 1,042 Nulls alive proclaiming to be the Jesus Christ Null, so no one would believe him if he did. Nope, scratch that. 1,043. Zilch tweaked his idea. Then choose to endow one of them with our miraculous vacuum energy, and let's see how it goes. Nada saw something. Ooh, never mind. Look at that, Zilch. That fake Newton Null took nothing seriously and discovered negative mass. Zilch fast-forwarded those timelines a little bit to see where they would go. Wow, 72% of these worlds reach world peace within 25 years due to the preponderance of energy satiating all the Null's needs. And this set of universes sees that kid from Null and Void grow up to be the Dr. Null on a real Netherpie ship. Nada said, "Oh yes, let's follow that group. How inspiring." This ship's Captain Null is a retired United Earth Space Force pilot, decorated with multiple awards for defending Earth from 2 city-destroying asteroid impacts, who enters the Netherpie's cockpit. Being an African-American guy in charge of this mission 100 years after the United Earth government was established didn't give him more or less an advantage over anyone else. He was simply the best guy for this historic pioneering venture attempting to break the light speed barrier. The cockpit is a spacious room at the center of the newly engineered starship, filled with controls to keep an eye on the electromagnetic shield, the negative mass chambers, and the external objects of mass electric spacetime that could pose a threat to the Netherpies. All rooms are connected to the cockpit through the floor of the cockpit, due to the Netherpie's flying saucer design. Most posts are occupied and ready to launch, and the patrons are floating around in zero-G space. Ensign Nola, a young and cheery brunette with an average female build and stature, suddenly gets formal after casually talking with a friendly colleague. "Captain on the bridge!" Captain Noel lifts his hand to reassure the crew. "At ease, everyone. We'll set sail for the Orion sector in 1 hour, just as scheduled. If you would like to say any final goodbyes to anyone on Earth or in the Sol system, now is the time to do that. As you know, there is the slight possibility that you will never see them again. I wouldn't want anyone to regret their silence at this hour. Commander Nola, Dr. Null, and Chief Engineer Null, I'd like to see the 3 of you in my office, please." Commander Nola, a 40-something Malaysian with a PhD in condensed matter physics, replies to her sole authority on this scientific expedition. "Aye, sir." She is indifferent to the changing of her lead title from Doctor to Commander because she enjoys putting Dr. Null in his place when he gets out of hand. Dr. Null is a near-retirement European physician, is a little bit of a narc, also. A high-functioning, snarky, and sarcastic narc. He just silently started pushing himself against nearby objects to begin floating towards the captain's office in compliance. Chief Engineer Null, an early 30s Latino, top of both of his classes during his double major in aerospace and mechanical engineering. IQ of 150 and a charismatic people person who will make friends with anybody if you give him the chance. After the captain's office door shut, he perked up with the remark, "I told you, Captain. Call me Nolly. Chief Engineer Knoll is quite the mouthful, don't you think?" Captain Knoll said, "Ah, yes, Nolly, I know. I just wanted to let the rest of the non-engineering crew know your title and that you are the top man of the engineering crew. You three are my go-to men if something were to go to disarray." Nolly replied, "I bet I know just about everyone on the ship already, so that's kind of unnecessary. I've personally met with 28 of the crew, and I know there's only a couple more than that." Dr. Knoll said, 31. The total crew count, including myself, is 31. Geez, Knoll, you haven't introduced yourself to only 2 people not under your command on the ship, and we haven't even set off yet. You should probably save some of those introductions for novelty's sake, just in case you get bored with the rest of us. Captain Knoll coalesced himself. "I suppose I have to schedule some more socializing with the crew. I wouldn't want such an endearing political opponent to have an upper hand to start a mutiny on me if entropy were to have its way on this mission." The captain playfully smiled and winked at Nolly. Nolly returned the playful rhetoric. "Aye, I've got my eye on you, Captain." Commander Nola rolled her eyes and interjected, "So, Captain, is there any problem that we should be aware of, or is this just another motivational team leader meeting that we're going to pass along to everyone else?" Captain Knoll switched to a more serious gaze as he said, "Oh, I'll be doing a ship-wide pre-launch speech for the crew that'll also be broadcasted to Earth." He proceeded to fold his hands in front of him atop his surprisingly well-kept desk, which was bolted to the floor. "Admiral Knoll has just informed me that one of our engineers, Ensign Knoll, is engaged to be married. His fiancée contacted the UESF headquarters trying to get herself to come along as a civilian passenger. He handed the decision-making powers over to me in this case. There's enough negative mass to accommodate her, so there's no problem there. The problem more has to do with the potential separation of loved ones, and we all knew those risks signing up. Lieutenant Knoll and Ensign Nola were qualified enough to join the crew as a married couple, and as far as what the rest of the crew stated in their applications, they are either single, divorced, or widowed. As you guys know, our trip may be the first in human history to break the light barrier, and we have no idea which of the predicted outcomes will occur. But in more than one hypothesis, either time, space, causality, or communicability with Earth becomes, well, fuck to hell," Dr. Knoll wagered. Captain Knoll continued, "Yeah, that. So what do you guys think? Any insights, related thoughts, or objections to the civilian joining us for the ride?" Nolly jumped right in. "I am surprised that Ensign Knoll is engaged. I can hardly believe it. We talked for like 2 hours on Tuesday on our similar interests and backgrounds, and he never once brought up any past love interests. Is it possible that he is trying to ghost her, and bringing her along is the opposite of what he wants?" Commander Nola added, "Now that I think of it, we should use this opportunity to acquire that janitor/maid of sorts that I recommended shortly after getting this position. The Admiral wasn't so keen on it, but apparently he has a soft spot for young lovers. I guess love is more important than cleanliness." The doctor asked the captain, why don't we just ask Ensign Knoll his thoughts on the subject? We won't know until we ask." Dr. Knoll's inquiry was cut short by an obnoxiously loud and unfamiliar feminine voice. "There's my Knoll! Why haven't you answered any of my calls? I was so worried that I'd never get to hold you again." Captain Knoll remarked as the 4 leaders headed back to the cockpit, "Why do I get the feeling that this girl won't take no for an answer?" Ensign Knoll is seen floating at his post, monitoring the electromagnetic shields, relatively frozen and aghast with his dark brown eyes wide. It is usually dark Indian skin, a few shades lighter on the face due to the shock. As his fiancée was joyously approaching him, Ensign Knoll snapped back into it and mustered up the courage to begin a dialogue. Oh, hey, Maiden Nola, my love, my precious, my beautiful beach. How are you? Maiden Nola is wearing a chocolate pleather dress with a tan feather boa. She sharply popped the personal space bubble that Ensign Null was attempting to build around himself, but to no avail. She grabbed him close and initiated the zero-G hug she planned and desired days before her arrival. The hug was initially sweet like honey, but as soon as Ensign Null relaxed enough to taste it, Maiden Nola's bondage became more like apple cider vinegar as she whispered in his ear, I said, why haven't you answered any of my calls, Null? While Ensign Null was in his bewildering Venus flytrap, he was trying to think of a correct response to this damning question. He made eye contact with Noli and communicated the silent distress call with his hilariously widened eyes and exasperated lips. Help me! Noli's thoughts and speed nearly broke the light barrier while simulating the best social outcome for everyone involved. He chose to use his usual unpredictable social formula, which was really more of a non-formula. He was just going to wing it. Ensign Noel, I didn't know you had such a beautiful bride to be coming along with us on this bold new mission. Why don't you introduce me? Ensign Noel said, yeah. Hey, Major Nola, this is my friend and my superior, Noli, the chief engineer. He's super smart, so much smarter than me. You can ask him anything and he'll give you a good answer. Hey, Noli, what do you think of my fiancé? Maiden Nola continued to be lost in her own little world, smothering Ensign Noel with her embrace, completely oblivious to Noli. Noli broke the silence. I think you better hold her tight, buddy, or else I'll be doing a bit of tight holding of her myself. But by the current looks of it, Maiden Nola, it seems like you're the one doing all the tight holding on Ensign Noel. Give him some room to breathe, eh? His face is starting to turn blue. Maiden Nola loosened her grip to hold onto Ensign Noel's left arm, turning around to acknowledge Noli's presence. Oh, tee sorry, Noel. I guess I was caught up in an overwhelming emotion of love and inquiry. I just missed you so much. So she looked to Noli and asked him what Noel remained mum on. So, you're Noli? A smart engineer, huh? Well, answer me this. Why hasn't Noel here answered any of my calls? We were calling each other every night for 6 months. I asked him to marry me. He said, sure, babe. Then 1 week later, he just up and vanished on me. And then I did a little bit of digging and found his name on the crew of the upcoming launch of the Nether Pies and wanted to make sure if the wedding was still on. Noli replied, that's an easy one. Of course the wedding is still on. It's just that he wanted to surprise you with the knowledge that the two of you will have the chance to be a part of the first human marriage to ever happen outside the Sol system. And he was just so caught up with all of the ship preparations to make sure it was safe for you. He knew that if you were really the right one for him, you would come looking for him again. I saw for myself the dedication he had to his work, the love and care he put into our preparations. Ain't that right, Ensign Noel? Ensign Noel looked glad, but perturbed at the same time, as he validated Noli's witness. Yeah, that's right. I'm so glad you showed up literally 1 hour prior to lunch. Noli, can I speak to you for a second? Noli said, sure, buddy. Maiden Nola asked, hey, Schnookums, what are you two going to talk about? Ensign Noel whispered into Maiden Nola's ear, I'm going to ask him if he would like to be my best man at the wedding, honey. Maiden Nola's eyes glistened as her mouth curled up in a giddy, nodding her head in approval and pushed Ensign Noel into Noli's arms. Hello, handsome, said Noli, followed by Ensign Noel saying, while gritting his teeth, shut up in my quarters now. As Noli and Ensign Noel left the bridge, Captain Noel, Commander Nola, and Dr. Noel approached Maiden Nola to give her an official welcome and designation for the crew. Captain Noel's presence adequately silences Maiden Nola into order and attention. Hello, Maiden Nola. It is a pleasure to meet your acquaintance. I am Captain Noel. This is Commander Nola, and this is Dr. Noel. I have been left in charge of the decision-making process of determining whether or not you will be joining us on our important mission. I was just talking with the commander and the doctor about taking you on as an official housekeeper of the Netherpies. As you know, this is not a civilian flight, so there will be no one who is passively riding. If you are on the ship, you are part of the crew. And since a maid is a fancier word for housekeeper, I can see to it that your official title for this journey remains as Maiden Nola. Unless you're not interested in having the maid title, in which case... Maiden Nola delightfully responded, "Oh, that sounds perfect for me. I first met Ensign Nola while I was a hostess for a 5-star restaurant, so I am well accustomed to customer service work. So long as I can be near him, I will seek to serve the rest of the crewmates with a 5-star experience as well." Commander Nola officially invited her onto the ship. "Welcome aboard, then. I like your spunk. Allow me to give you a brief tour of the ship and show you to your new room." Maiden Nola stayed perky to say, "I'd be delighted, Commander." As the commander and the maiden floated off the bridge, the doctor spoke to the captain in small talk. "Well then, I guess that makes a total census 32. Captain Nola grimly remarked, "Let's just hope that number only goes up after we launch." "Yeah," the doctor agreed. After a moment of content, thoughtful, and hopeful silence, the two leaders were approached by Lieutenant Knoll, a tall and lanky Scandinavian with bleached white hair and a musky red beard. The lieutenant said to them, "Captain, the camera crew is all set up on the docking station, ready to hear your historic speech. They said to plan on going live 10 minutes before launch." The captain responded, "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be out there soon. I'm just going to use the little captain's room first." "To boldly go where?" The doctor held up his hand to stop the captain's charade. "Stop it, Captain. You'll give yourself a hernia again." That'll be enough for this one.